Hi, this talk today will be delivered in a very fast-paced, slightly harsh, and somewhat intense tone. It'll include mild profanities, but I've kept it PG, so kids can stay in the room. Well, sort of. Actually, maybe not. You know what? You decide on that one. I'd like to acknowledge that this presentation today is being recorded on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We pay our respects to all Indigenous elders, past, present, and emerging. We recognise that sovereignty was never ceded and that this always was, and always will be, Aboriginal land. So, welcome to Networking Magic, aka stop playing business cards as a gathering and start making some real connections. With me, Ceri Hutton. Now some of you might be wondering, what's all this nonsense about magic and gatherings, A lot of you might be wondering, what's this got to do with me and my game? And hopefully all of you should be asking, who are you again? Excellent question. Thanks for asking. Well, I'm Ceri, and my interests include accessibility and representation, the endless possibilities of gamification, the beauty of design, a really frickin' good soundtrack, doing silly voices, and BDSM. Business development, sales, and marketing, that is. Basically, I like to manage things. Over the last 12 years, I have managed a pop culture events business, an EB games store, a local indie game showcase, and more recently, I'm project lead on the Actors, I run the arcade, and I help design GCAP. You're welcome. So what does that matter to you? Well, it's simple really. I've built my career from hanging out and talking about games. I've hired 100 people by hanging out, talking about games. I've interviewed 1,000 people by hanging out and talking about games. And I've sold product to over 10,000 people hanging out, talking about games. And today, we're going to talk about what that has taught me when it comes to making connections with other people. We're going to talk about the best ways you could build pathways to connect with other people based on memorable moments and not self-interested goals. And we're going to start all of that with the basics. Yep, you guessed it. It's a 101. Got ya. There's even going to be a pop quiz at the end. I'm not joking. But it'll be fun because it's magic. And I love a good trading card game. They rule. Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Uno, love them. But you know what sucks about trading card games? It's having too many shitty common cards. Ugh, it's the worst. The worst! Everyone ends up doing the exact same thing when they have too many annoying common cards. They just end up piling them up in their shoeboxes of shame because they feel bad about throwing them away. And you know what? Business cards are exactly the same. Everyone has piles of them, and they never look at them, except for the primo super special awesome ones that they love. And that's because people just don't care about the business card if they don't care about the person that gave it to them. So how do you make that happen? How do you go from the shoebox of shame to the primo super special awesome pile? Well, let's start by passionately destroying 3 misconceptions about networking straight away. I want you to clear everything from your mind that you know about business cards, networking, and being goal-orientated. And now, it's gone? Okay, good. So, let's define them, shall we? Business cards. Business cards are an invitation, not an introduction. They are an invitation to continue a conversation at a later date. It's not an introduction of who you are. But we'll get to that later. Networking. Networking is about planting seeds, not harvesting fruit. Networking isn't about the right person that you're going to meet here and now. It's about investing in relationships that may bear fruit long term. But we'll get into that later. Being goal orientated. Being goal orientated is about being patient, not about being driven. Please take the time now to throw away any old-timey values your grandpa taught you about gumption and grit, and any stories that you might have heard about walking straight in the door with a nice tie and $2 in me pocket and being so confident that I got a job right on the spot. It's a load of crap. Everyone hates it. Don't be that guy. In all honesty, the reason most business in game dev is conducted in bars is because it's where everyone stops trying to be a go-getter and elevator pitching at each other and actually just starts to get to know each other better. But we'll get into that later. So let's begin, shall we? So, planting seeds, not harvesting fruit. Relationships are like a Kinder Surprise. You don't know what you're going to get. In fact, half the fun is finding out. You will never really know the benefit of a relationship until you invest in it. For me personally, I never really would have moved from my hometown and worked for the GCAP or IGEA had I not met a man by the name of Fabian many years ago. At that time, all I really cared about was meeting local indie game devs at whatever meetup I could, so I had games I could showcase at my events. So I went to one of the local meetups, and my friend Will, who is also not a game dev, said to me, "Hey, have you met Fabian?" Who is not a game dev. Me and Fabian hit it off, and we went to an after party down the road at the pub. I added Fabian on Facebook, and a few years later, lo and behold, Fabian posted a job opportunity to come work at the arcade in Melbourne. And the rest is history. Now, the reason I mention this is because had I come into it being goal orientated and only focused on meeting devs, I wouldn't have invested the time of day in Fabian. But because I just had a banter with him and didn't come in with some half-baked idea of what he was going to do for me, I benefited from the relationship in a big way. So the first point I want to get across here is throw away the plan. Don't come into networking with an objective or a goal. It will ultimately not help you because you'll blind yourself to future opportunity by being closed-minded in your approach. Once again, you will never know the benefit of a relationship until you invest in it. Now, the next thing that is key to planting effective seeds is don't be a Karen. The manager can't help you. Time and time again, I see this networking failure. People think that the only way to get something done is to talk to the person in charge. Like the lead engineer at the local game studio that you so desperately want to work at is going to be so impressed by you that they'll just hire you on the spot. No. No. No, no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No. The reality is that attitude ultimately hurts your chances because odds are you just passed up your opportunity to speak to the hiring manager or the office manager or heaven forbid the community manager. I really need to make this totally clear because I have seen this so many times and it drives me up the wall. The community manager knows both the team and the community the best. That means that they are one of the best people for you to know if you want to join a team. Almost every community manager that I know has gotten someone a job, yet almost everyone is too busy looking for someone more important to give them the time of day. Okay, I'm done. I think. Now, here's the final point for this section, and it's going to be key for you to remember this later. Don't have an elevator pitch, have an elevator question. I'm going to rip a band-aid off right now, just to save us a lot of time. Pitching your game idea is like sharing a meme with a friend. You may think it's the best thing you've ever seen, but we've all seen it before. The reality is, it really doesn't matter if your pitch is good. If you don't actively participate in a conversation, no one will even listen to you. So that's why I want you all to not have an elevator pitch, but an elevator question. So if an elevator pitch is designed to keep you interested in the product that you're trying to sell, an elevator question should be something that is interesting, that keeps people wanting to continue talking to you. It doesn't have to be brave and controversial. It just has to show that you're a person that you're worth talking to, and that you're actually interested in getting to know the person that you're talking to, and not what they can offer you. It should be short, interesting, and not complicated. Think of it as a fire starter that gets the conversation going. It will ultimately depend on the context of the conversation, but what I use is, what's an album that you love so much that you wouldn't skip a single song on it when listening to it? And for those who are wondering, it's Daft Punk's Discovery for me. Got you thinking now though, haven't I? But no time for that now. We're moving on to reciprocity's role in relationships. So what is reciprocity? It's a simple concept from social psychology. It's built around the idea that people that are genuinely kind, positive, caring, and supportive of others will have that kindness reciprocated back at them. And it's pretty evident how true that is. We all know out of our friends and colleagues who is the kindest and most reliable person, in the same way that we all know who is the rudest and most unreliable. It's human nature to flock to people that are genuinely good people, and to actively avoid people that seem untrustworthy. The trickiest thing about all of this is that you can't pretend to be nice. The mask always slips. People always know when you're being genuine or not. So, let's get stuck into some tips and tricks that will help you be a genuine giver and not a disingenuous taker. Listen, then talk. In that order. You can't possibly get to know somebody if you're too busy thinking about what your next move is in the conversation. This might not sound like a revolutionary idea, but if you take the time to listen to what people are saying in conversations, it'll flow more naturally. Practice active listening, wherever appropriate. Which, by the way, is that thing where you rephrase what people said back at them to confirm that you heard them. As in, yes, I'm really getting into synthwave at the moment. So you're getting into synthwave. Any bands you'd recommend? Okay. So next up, be a giver, not a taker. No one talks to takers. Be a giver. Because honestly, people can always tell that you want something from them. People can always tell that you want something from them. That's right. People can always tell that you want something from them. Now, I sung that one so you'd remember it. So please, don't make me sing it again. No one wants that. Just like no one wants to talk to someone who clearly wants something and is only pretending to be interested in the conversation. It's always really obvious. Always. Now, this next one is a simple one. Ask for advice, not help. Walter Isaacson, in his biography of Benjamin Franklin, wrote, "Appeal to their pride and vanity by seeking their opinion and advice, and they will admire you for your judgment and wisdom." Which basically means that people's favorite person in the whole world is themselves. So if you seek their advice, they will admire you for considering them an expert on the subject matter. It's also good to make that distinction between advice and help. Advice is a privilege that people are happy to oblige. Help is a burden that puts you in their debt. That might not seem that different, but a key part of forming a healthy relationship in the long run is not to immediately put yourself in a transactional favor to favor style dynamic. You want the relationship to have a give and take to it, for sure, but you don't want to subjugate yourself straight off the bat. Now, the final key point here is a genuine offer. The best way to start off a relationship strong is to show that you have value to offer. There's always something you can offer in return for that advice. It just doesn't have to be amazing or unique or out of the box. It just has to be genuine. An honest, genuine offer. That's it. I can't give you any examples here, as it's completely dependent on who you are as a person. But if you are a genuine giver, a genuine offer will come naturally in conversation. So, the next step is about crafting your own memorable moments. There's this dumb saying that I like. It's not what you know, it's not even who you know. It's who knows you. Because it honestly isn't about having a giant network of people. It's about leaving an impression on someone. And hey, guess what? You know how you do that? By being you. Be original. There's no one else in the world who's quite like you, who's lived your life or knows what you know about what you know. You don't have to follow the crowd. You don't have to be like everyone else. Just be you. Because guess what? You're great. And you just being you is the first step to being memorable. The next step is don't be presumptuous. 9 times out of 10, people will tell you exactly how they expect to be addressed and treated. And all you have to do is listen and take the time to observe social cues. This one, it's honestly not that hard. Just don't be a jerk. Step 3. Have fun, but don't try to be funny. Everyone has this idea that being the funniest person in a group hangout is winning the conversation. This is such an unhelpful myth. The funniest people are actually the ones that listen and riff off of others, not the person who lands that perfect one-liner by interrupting everyone else. Everyone hates that guy. I've heard your "did you just assume my gender?" joke, and I hate it, and it makes me judge you as a person. Cut that shit out. Okay, good? Alright then. Final key point. Reintroduce your story. You are your own person who has lived your own life. Draw from it. Tell stories when relevant that speak to your experience. And understanding a good story about something in someone's life that helped them understand something better is truly, truly memorable. And it'll help people paint a picture of who you are and what you stand for. And trust me when I say that is going to be so important for you in the long run. Like, for me, the reason I'm passionate about accessibility options in games is that in my EB Games days, I used to serve a variety of people who had different disabilities. And they were honestly the most passionate gamers I've ever met. I remember this one regular customer I had 10 years ago, Peter. Peter had no arms, but that didn't stop him from being an elite gamer. His dad made him a custom controller that allowed him to play with a combination of his mouth and his feet. And still to this day, I remember Peter telling me all about finding all the feathers in Assassin's Creed and how proud he was to finally unlock that in-game achievement. And it stuck with me because Peter's story is memorable. And if you take the time to tell yours, it will be too. All right, we're on the home stretch now. It's business time. business card strategy. So if you remember earlier, I said business cards are an invitation to continue a conversation at a later date. It's not an introduction to who you are. As such, the handing over of the business card or contact details moment should be the very last thing that you do, and only do it once the conversation is wrapping up. This will mean that the moment the business card exchange happens, you'll have already left a good enough impression that people will actually want that contact information on the card. Think about it this way. By the time that you put that business card in my hand, you will have already done your job. And the only thing I'll be looking for is your contact info. It doesn't have to be a fancy business card with rounded edges and a bone white finish. It just has to reinforce who you said that you were. Now, quick caveat here. I know that giving someone your business card isn't something that really happens in 2020, but the digital equivalent is just giving someone your email address or your LinkedIn. Which leads me to my next point. Choose your moment. When should you contact someone after getting their business card or contact information? What social media platform should you follow them on? What's keen and what's too keen? Well, first up, you don't need to follow up straight away. If anything, give it a day to stew on whatever advice or opportunity that they gave you. I know personally, I always appreciate when an email comes through a few days, sometimes a week or a month later, where that person actually thought about what I said and actually did something about it, rather than thanking me straight away just for talking to them. I once had an old employee reach out to me 5 years after working with them to thank me for being a good manager. Honestly, it meant so much more that they had reflected on it than it would have if they had said it the day after it happened. Now, what about following people on socials? Personally, I think following on one social media platform, and possibly LinkedIn as well if you think it's appropriate, is about right. Don't follow someone on every single social media all at once. It's super weird. Okay, you still with me? Good, because now we're going to start working together on what the first follow-up email will look like. The first email. So you remember all those key color blocks along the way? Good, because guess what? They're going to help you build your very first follow-up email. So let's start with number 1. Choose your moment. Like I said, you don't have to follow up straight away, as long as you start with an intro that mentions where you met. Number 2, reintroduce your story. If there was a moment in the conversation, revisit it here. This is where a good story where you aligned your values will really help. Number 3, a genuine offer. Offer your services in some way, and when you do, treat it like a collaboration of minds, not charity. Don't be transactional here. The offer needs to be genuine, and ideally be the start of an alliance or a shared mission you have in common. Number 4, an elevator question. Here's where you want to put in a very easy to answer question that they can respond to. Just something to start a small conversation off of. It can even be a small anecdote, or a recommendation of a band to listen to, or a TV show you think they should watch. It'll help start the conversation naturally. Number 5, choose your moment. Again, if there was some sort of upcoming event, pandemic pending, that you might both go to, it might be good to mention that you'll be there. Don't make it an appointment. Don't try and sell them something. Just finish with an open invitation. And then, sign out. Cheers, regards, best wishes. Honestly, who cares? You've already done all the hard work. Just remember to spell your own name right. Lastly, remember to water your plants. Relationship building is not a one and done kind of deal. You must continually talk to people to keep that relationship healthy. How often you do that is completely dependent on the person. Just like you don't want to overwater a peace lily, you also don't want to spam your every thought to someone that you just met. Find the rhythm by getting to know that person better. So, here we are, the final countdown. Let's look over what we've learned, shall we? Plant seeds, don't harvest fruit, because you don't know when and how a relationship will benefit you. Reciprocity is key to forming stronger relationships. Be a giver, not a taker. Being memorable is about being you. Business cards are an invitation, not an introduction. Water your plants by finding that rhythm. And you can do all of these things by having an elevator question, having a genuine offer, reintroducing your story, choosing your moment, and paying attention. Wait, what was that last one? Paying attention? Why would I need to? Oh, you thought I was joking about the pop quiz, didn't you? Well, too bad. You know how this works. I ask the questions, and you get the points if you get them right. And we're going to tally them all up and see how you did. Here we go. For 1 point, what should you have instead of an elevator pitch? That's right. It was an elevator question. For 1 point, what do you always do before you talk? You got it. It was listen. For 1 point, ask for blank, not help. Correctamundo. It was advice. For 2 points, what's the definition of a business card? Oh, getting harder now. It was an invitation to continue a conversation at a later date. You can still have a point here if you just said an invitation. For 2 more points, what was the name of my pop culture events business? Ooh, careful question, eh? That's right. It was AFK events. Though, I will also accept Play Up Perth here. And finally, for 3 points. What was the secret message at the start? I'll give you a hint. It was on the "Who are you again" slide. Oh, it's a tricky one, this one, that's for sure. Be very proud of yourself if you got this. It was, "Are you paying attention to me?" So, tally your points up and let's see how you did. If you scored between 0 to 1, you are actively disengaged. If you network without brushing up on your listening skills, you will do more damage than good. You're going to need to do your homework if you expect to make an impact in your career. If you scored between 2 to 3, you are disengaged. While you are on the right path, you struggle to pay attention and might find it hard to make meaningful connections while networking. If you scored between 4 to 8, well done. You are engaged. You'll do fine out there. Keep focused and you'll go far. If you scored between 9 and 10, whoa, look at you. You are actively engaged. You got this. Get out there and make some connections because you are an absolute legend. For those of you who want to go the extra mile and earn some points, then here's some homework for you to brush up on your people skills. For something nice and easy, check out Networking for People Who Don't Like Networking, a podcast by WorkLife. For something a bit juicier, there's 2 great books you can all learn a lot from. Read Give and Take by Adam Grant to learn more about reciprocity, and Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek to learn about genuine generosity. And lastly, the absolute best thing you can do to learn, actually put what I've said into practice. Make yourself proud. I know you can do it. Thank you. And that's it. Go out there and make some real connections. Bye.